Allbirds has become one of the most successful shoe brands of the past 5 years, and they've exploded so much in popularity that now even Amazon is ripping them off. In this review, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over my favorite features of the Allbirds shoes, how my pair of Allbirds have held up not only over the past 6 months, but I also have a pair that are 1 year old and another pair that are now 2 years old. So we'll be comparing and contrasting all three pairs to see how these shoes hold up over a very long period of time. I'll then take you through some things I don't like about Allbirds, and then finally, my recommendation on whether or not you should buy yourself a pair of Allbirds. Let's dive in. I tend to hate uncomfortable shoes, and I'll typically value comfort over style most of the time. Heck, I'm right now trying to figure out how to wear Allbirds at my wedding, much to my fiance and family's dismay. So when I finally found out about Allbirds, I was so happy that I felt like I finally found this pair of shoes that were comfortable, that I could not only wear into the office, but I could wear outside. I could wear for a walk. I could basically wear them for almost any occasion. I got my pair of Allbirds in 2017, soon after the brand launched. They have a variety of colors and styles, and even more so now than when I first got my pair of Allbirds. And they come in size 14, which is great since that's the size I wear and not everyone who makes shoes makes them in that size. My first impression of the shoes when I first put them on was that wearing them was like walking on clouds. I didn't need to wait to break them in, they were just instantly comfortable from the moment I put them on. The thing that really blew my mind about my first pair of Allbirds was these were wool shoes, like, wool. The gross material that you make Christmas sweaters out of, it's not a great material. Well, at least here in the United States, wool as a material is something that most people try to avoid. They don't go towards. But it turns out that the wool most of us here in the US are used to is not the same type of wool that Allbirds are made out of. Allbirds uses a proprietary blend of merino wool for their shoes that is breathable, so your feet won't get super clammy, but also insulating, so they're okay for wearing during the cooler months. Now, these aren't boots, so your feet are going to get cold when you start wearing Allbirds in below freezing temperatures. However, I will say that these shoes are much more insulating than your run-of-the-mill sneaker like a Nike mesh sneaker. Now, when I first got my pair of Allbirds, I started wearing these things everywhere. I wore them to the office. I wore them taking a stroll in downtown Raleigh. I took them on trips to Australia, New Zealand, San Francisco, and Austin, Texas. I wore these things everywhere, and in every single scenario, they were great, and especially on airplanes. When you're on an airplane, this is a situation where you're going to want your feet to feel as comfortable as possible. And because Allbirds are the types of shoes that your feet are really never going to feel uncomfortable in, they are perfect for traveling on an airplane. Another cool thing about Allbirds is they can be worn barefoot and have properties that fight foot odor within the wool material. They're also washable, so if they do start to smell, you can just throw them in the washing machine. In the 2 years I've had my wool runners, I can't recall a situation where I felt like these shoes didn't meet my expectations. Now, after 2 years of wear though, I will say that the treads on the bottom of the shoes have worn down quite a bit to the point where I can no longer wear these shoes on slippery surfaces. Allbirds just recently released mizzles, which are made for performance in the rain. Not only are the mizzles water repellent, but it looks like Allbirds has improved the treads on these shoes as well to give you better grip. So after I got my first pair of Allbirds, I ended up getting another pair the next year, and this year I got my first pair of the Tree Runners. Instead of using wool, the Tree Runners are made using a proprietary blend of eucalyptus pulp. They're just as comfortable as the wool runners I wear, the only difference being that they're a little bit more airy and breezy, so they're perfect for situations like walking in a downtown environment when it's 90 degrees outside and humid. Alright, now let's dive deeper into the durability of these shoes. After 2 years of wear, my wool runners do look worn down compared to when I first got them. The rubber at the bottom of the shoe definitely wears down over time, at least for my original wool runners, so that the grip is not as good and the cushion of the shoe has been reduced as well. There is also an occasional popping noise on the heel of my right gray shoe now, and I think that the heel support on it has finally started to give way. For my second pair of wool runners that I got last year, the material doesn't pop as much as it did when I first got them. I think the gray blend color actually looks a bit better over time than my blue wool runners do. After 6 months of use, my blue tree runners still look great, and I think this material in general will hold up a bit better than the wool material. They also seem to have an improved heel support system, so I'm hopeful I won't run into the same issues with my original wool runners with the tree runners. Now let's talk about some things I don't like about Allbirds, and the first being the price. At $99 a shoe, that would be expensive. At $99 a pair, these shoes are just out of range for so many folks out there who typically only spend about $40 to $60 per pair of shoes that they typically wear day in and day out. I really would like to see Allbirds try and make a shoe at a lower price point in that $40 to $60 range, especially as they continue to hit economies of scale with their production. I think one, it would hedge off a lot of these low-cost knockoffs that you're seeing come on to the market right now, and two, it would just open up the Allbirds brand to so many more people so they can experience for themselves what it's like to wear the world's most comfortable shoe. Another thing that I've run into with my tree runners that I've disliked slightly is actually the new heel design. It incorporates merino wool into the heel, but for some reason, I find that this material pills quite easily, which can be slightly annoying when rubbing against my heel. The tree runner material also shows cutouts in the material, so you can see the area of protection for your big toe, and it's slightly a different color than the surrounding area of material. I'm not sure why that is, but it is slightly noticeable. Now, the last thing I dislike about my pair of Allbirds is the treads on the bottom. I think they wear a little bit too quickly, and overall, I think these could be designed to grip surfaces a little bit better. The newly released mizzles should improve that grip design, and I hope that Allbirds takes the learnings there and improves the treads on all of their shoes. Alright, so to wrap things up, do I recommend getting a pair of Allbirds? And the answer to that question is yes. Even with all the downsides to the brand, the pricing, and the shoes themselves that I just mentioned earlier, most of those I thought were minor, and that still doesn't erase the fact that these are the most comfortable pair of shoes I have worn thus far. I can wear them into the office. I can wear them for pretty much any occasion except perhaps my wedding. I can wear them with socks, without socks, and they're machine washable, very breathable, and just all around great shoes. Plus, one thing I haven't mentioned so far is that Allbirds are made using sustainable materials, which is actually something that sets this brand apart from most other shoe brands out there. Sustainability is something really important to Allbirds, and it shows in every material choice they make. So, if sustainably made products is important to you, and it probably should be somewhat important to you since, we all have to share the earth and whatnot, know that Allbirds is one of the most sustainable shoes you can buy out on the market today. If you're sold on getting a pair of Allbirds but are still unsure about which material of shoe is right for you, here are some of my recommendations. If you know you're going to be wearing these shoes a lot in hot weather or even mildly warm weather, and making sure that you get enough air circulation throughout your shoe is something that's very important to you, then I would say go with the tree runner material. Now, if you're planning on wearing these shoes in a lot of situations where they could potentially get soaked, obviously the mizzles are going to be the type of shoe to go for. For all other scenarios, my recommendation would be to go with the merino wool material. It's comfortable, it's still pretty breathable, just not as breathable as the tree runner material, and all around it makes a fantastic shoe. Alright, well that wraps up our long-term review of Allbirds shoes. If you like this video, make sure you hit that thumbs up button below and subscribe to the channel if you'd like to see more product review videos like this one. Well, thanks so much for watching. For 6 months later, I'm Josh Tedder.